name is Erica Neal, and this is your Spotlight Member of the Month, where we are bringing you another banker, another IBC specialist who is putting it to work in their business, in the world of business, entrepreneurial space, and or real estate investing. So today we have Rick and Crystal Rumer. They are our land note investing specialists. We're going to hear all about their background, their business, and all the great things that they're doing. So we are so glad to have you guys here. Rick, Crystal, this is our 2 for month. I'm excited. I love this. The power couple. I'm so glad that you guys came on. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I think we're excited to be on here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So what was that, Crystal? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we love IBC and everything that you're doing. So we're big fans ourselves.
Yeah, shameless plug, right? I love it. Well, what's crazy is, so when we met, you guys were already doing infinite banking. So you had learned about it, and then we've just continued to go deeper and even further what you've already done. So that's just kind of goes to show you guys how you're continually learning and educating and, expanding your knowledge base. So we'll keep going into that, but I just love y'all's mindset and where you're at and what you're continuing to do. So let's kind of, I guess we'll start at the beginning. That's the best place, right? Let's kind of get into the background and the career. I know y'all are a little bit different on this, but I guess tell us, about your schooling or your field, kind of what drove you to study and really dive into the areas that you're focused on now.
I would say for me, bought my first rental property when I was 19 years old, had a couple of more by the time I was 30, was working for JP Morgan Chase in the financial industry, had securities licenses, 6, 63, 65, Texas Life and Health. So totally into the to the financial planning world, but the housing crunch, housing crash, whatever you want to call that, 2008, 2009 came around. My sales quotas were going up and up and up. Jamie Dimond, I used to work for JP Morgan Chase. His bonus went up and up and up. He made $33 million the year they got bailed out. And I came to Crystal and I was like, hey, we don't have to do this anymore. Like I can't work for this guy anymore. And it was because of that and a couple of life events that happened in our life that we're like, hey, let's go all in on real estate. So I quit and we started flipping houses full time. So it was flipping, fix and flips, wholesaling, lots of wholesaling. I think that's how a lot of people get into the real estate.
Oh yeah.
Wholesaling. I was in the glory days of wholesaling when you could put out the bandit signs and
I've got pictures of actually
putting them on the street corners.
That was way back in the day. But they worked. Yeah.
They worked.
And then y'all got in on the front end, right? Y'all were doing wholesaling before wholesaling was cool.
That's right. People,
no AI stuff back then. And yeah, well, and then we got into having more rentals, and then we had a fix and flip that went bad and a rental that went bad. And that's when we kind of discovered mortgage notes. We ended up creating notes because we were sick and tired of being landlords.
Yeah.
And it was
tenants and toilets are hard.
Yeah. We found out real quick that we didn't like to be a landlord in that situation. It was let's see, January in Houston, Texas. It never freezes. It ended up freezing that year, and the renters had bailed out, so pipes busted and the entire home flooded.
Oh my gosh.
Thousands and thousands of dollars that it cost us. And then we had a fix and flip that we couldn't sell, and we're going, what do we do with this? And so that's when we
found an investor to come in along with us, and he allowed us to owner finance it. So we used his money, he put it down, and he became the lender on an owner finance note.
Yeah.
And that's when, after we did a few of these, we're like, hey, there's something to this. And that's kind of really that's how we got started into the owner finance world.
We got into oil field housing as well.
Yeah. Okay.
basically a hotel out in the middle of nowhere we built when oil and everything was gangbusters in South Texas. And there was fracking crews everywhere. So Halliburton and Schlumberger were our biggest clients. And we literally set up shop and hotels out in the middle of nowhere. And that was great for a time. And then
I'm from Odessa, Texas, and we call those man camps. That's what we call them. Yeah,
So,
that's what it, man camps.
so we had a man camp south of San Antonio, about an hour south of San Antonio, Karnes County area. And just like she said, it was full. It was gangbusters until OPEC had a meeting one time and they changed the price of oil. And within a month, we had like 2 or 3 rooms rented and crickets, tumbleweed and crickets.
Wow.
Really what it. So back to the owner financing world. Now what we're doing is buying larger tracts of land, mainly in Texas, some up in Arkansas, but we'll buy 100 to 400 acres, subdivide that into 5 and 10 acre ranchettes, oversized lots, and we'll generally sell those off to individuals just as raw land. We'll put very limited horizontal development in there, a driveway, a fence. We make sure it has power at the road frontage, but other than that, we allow the buyers to come in and build it out how they want to do that. And we'll owner finance these properties and carry the note for them. And in doing that, we've built up quite a portfolio now of owner finance notes that what we would like to do is, and what we do is turn around and sell those notes to other investors. Typically, we've done it in onesie twosies. An investor has $100,000 they want to park, or $300,000 in a self-directed IRA. And so they can become that lender on that note. And just to explain that, this is just like Bank of America originates a note and 6 months later sells it to somebody else.
Right.
We originate it and 6 months later sell it to somebody else. They pay for it based on the unpaid balance, and they have a very predictable outcome of monthly revenue coming in at a 10, 11, 12% interest rate. And it just keeps coming in, and they own the first lien position, just like Bank of America would.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you are literally becoming the bank, right? Like we joke about IBC, but in this instance, like you are the financier of this project. So the whole concept of the owner finance is you own it, you're financing it, and you get to be the one that reaps the benefit, all those interest payments, cash flow payments. But I think you nailed it right on the head, where it is that consistent monthly cash flow that you're able to capitalize on this. I don't know that I've talked about this on the note investing. There's different types of investments that serve a different purpose. Are you doing any depreciation? I know a lot of it's raw land, but if you were to put a property on there, are you doing any sort of depreciation if you hold this via owner finance, or what does that look like?
Well, when you hold it, when we take down the property, yes, we own it at that point. But once we sell the property to the new homeowner, it's up for them to do the depreciation. We're literally the bank in that situation. We're literally, we're not the owners of it. Now we have first lien position.
Mm-hmm.
Things go sideways, then we can go take it back. Then it's our land, but it's not our land to depreciate or appreciate as well. But that's probably one of the cool things about it is when we sell it as raw land, mm-hmm. the first thing somebody's going to do to it is improve it.
Oh yeah.
So they're going to add value to it. So
exactly.
we sell it as raw, but they're going to put in well or a septic system, and both of those are going to make the value of the property go up. The value of our collateral is going to go up, and that puts us in a strong position.
Yeah.
But we don't have to outflow.
You don't have to do the work. Yeah, outsource the appreciation.
Sell to the borrower. We are, like you said, putting minimal horizontal development. We do always make sure that there is road frontage. That is number one when we are looking for properties, but then that there is power. that we will do some fencing, culverts, things like that, driveways. But it's minimal. So whenever they buy this property, they're ready to put a pad site on there. They're ready to get that well and start their dream home, which is awesome. We have borrowers that love putting bees, animals, I mean, agriculture,
Yeah.
which is awesome. I mean, it's Texas. After COVID, we saw so many people wanting to this big exodus out of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are wanting more space and growing their vegetable gardens.
These properties are they're set out from town. These are not in town. These are 30 minutes outside of town on that bubble or on that line of development, you know, where land is still more affordable. So they are.
And I know you guys are local to DFW. Are you buying on the outskirts of DFW, or what's your target? I know you mentioned South Texas earlier. So what's your target market that you're buying these clumps of land?
I would say 90% of it is in or around what we would call the Texaplex. So Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, Houston. Most of that is south of everything we have right now is south of Waco.
Central Texas and South.
Yeah, central and south, outside of what we have going on in Arkansas. But in Texas, we're talking, like I said, fringe 30 minutes outside of Waco, outside of San Antonio, Austin, kind of once again on that bubble. That we have some properties in between San Antonio and Houston along that I-10 corridor, Brenham area outside Northwest Houston. So that's where the bulk of our properties are once again on the outskirts, but still where somebody can work in town, still where somebody can go to the grocery store in town. They just want that 5 or 10 acres that, quite honestly, where no one can tell them what they can and can't do out there.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah.
they just
Absolutely.
want a piece of Texas. Yeah.
Love it. Well, I love that too. And like I said, I think the main focus on these notes is the emphasis on cash flow. And it's coming in on that monthly basis instead of, a lot of times multifamily or a lot of these other big syndications are often quarterly, which is, those are great too. But if you're wanting just something that's, more passive, there's not any asset management. There's not anything other than just collecting that check. Are you guys who's having to navigate the payments? Do y'all have a company that those payments are going through? And then that way you're literally just sitting back and collecting mailbox money as the financier?
Yeah, we do.
We use a third-party servicer.
So we have a third-party servicing company that not only collects the payment, but escrows for taxes and insurance for the landowner. And they, once again, escrow for taxes and insurance and then send us the proceeds thereafter. So they keep track of interest income, all of that good information. All of these are amortized, so obviously the amount of interest every single month is going to be different, but they're going to keep track of all that for the investor, for us, or for the investor that buys this note from us. They keep track of all of that as well and send out a 1098 at the end of the year that said, hey, you had this much in interest income, so this is, so you can turn that in for taxes.
That is so nice. It's one less thing to have to calculate.
Yeah, so they really just need to check their, they have a login, so they can just check, and they want to check around the 10th or maybe the 15th and just make sure that they've received their payment. That's kind of the passive approach that we have. In addition to that, if I could just throw this out there, in addition to the third-party servicer, we also utilize an RMLO. I don't know if you're familiar, as this is a residential mortgage loan originator. This is another third party that we utilize, that when we close with the buyer of the property, they're going to pull credit, they're going to pull DTI, they're going to look at their payment history, not only their payment history and their loan history, but their employment history, their bank statements, and they're going to put together a 50 to 100-page document for us that says, this is a good borrower and here's why, or this is not a good borrower and here's why
Wow.
you use them. So they are a third-party due diligence, if you will, that says that this is a good loan to get into. This person has the ability to repay this loan. And they also look out for the buyer as well. It says these guys aren't gouging you. They're not charging you too much interest. Like, this is a good transaction for both parties.
That's huge, because I know, obviously banks, when you go apply to get a mortgage or any loan from any traditional bank, they're going to have their own process to make sure that you're credit worthy, obviously. So
Right.
if you're gonna be the one financing it, it's really important to make sure that you put good people in there. I mean, you can always take the asset back, worst case scenario, but nobody wants to do that. That's such a hassle. Like, obviously that's not the goal for any lender. So that's huge. I'm glad you brought that up. So for you guys, like you said, with your investors, they have the ability to use the RMLO as well. Who do you think is your target investor? Who is somebody out there that, when you're looking to partner or invest or have somebody invest with you or sell a note to, who is that ideal client that you're like, if you fall into these categories and can check this box, like, you really need to have a conversation?
That's a good question. And it's kind of a wide range. Yes, we deal with a lot of accredited investors, but what we love is that with a note, you don't have to be an accredited investor.
Ooh, that is powerful.
And so what we also do is we will sell a partial note of a minimum of 20,000 as well, which is great because not everyone may have 100,000, 300,000, $1 million to drop on a note. And so where they can invest and get that 10 to 12% return. And so what we will do is we will take a note and we will be the lead investor on that. And we will also sell a partial up to a minimum, of 20,000 per investor on that note, which
That is fantastic.
10 to 12% return on that note. And again, third-party servicer takes care of it. You just get your monthly payments each month and there's no hassle. So really, we're just looking for those that want passive cash flow and don't want to be on the active side and really just want to be able to check their bank account and go, oh yeah, my money came in. We have a quick story. We have a gal in Hawaii. She never bought a note before. And she came to us. She goes, hey, I'm really interested in what you guys have. Can you share? So we got on a Zoom call like this and we went over everything. She goes, okay, sounds great. And she goes, I'm really nervous and hesitant about this because she'd never purchased a note before and was just kind of leery about that. And we said, not a problem, totally get that. And she said, you keep saying this is easy, but I don't know if I believe you. So we went through the closing. We closed in less than a week because with the note, we can close within just a couple of days and
Nice.
over, which is huge. Well, then I think it was like 2 months later, she called Rick and she goes, you kept saying this is going to be so easy. And
it was like 3 weeks later. It was the next beginning of the month.
Right. She got her monthly payment that came in. She goes, it was so easy. It was and of course no one wants to get scammed or something bad happened with her investment, but we had shared with her, walked with her, and told her that yes, we're going to walk with you through this process and it's going to be easy. And then the next month you get your money in the mail, basically, or your bank account. And she flipped out.
Well, she's a previous real estate investor.
Oh yeah.
She knew what was going on. So our closing documents are the same as somebody else's closing documents. You're just sitting on the other side of the table instead of the one taking out the loan to buy this property that's going to be a rental. You're the one who's the lender on it and going to be receiving those monthly payments. So she was familiar with all the documents. She had seen all of that. She looked at our RMLO. She looked at the third-party servicing. We had a statement of every payment they've made, you know, so she can kind of do some due diligence. Like, you know, they pay 5 days late every month or something. She knows that going
Yeah.
into, or not 5 days late, but during grace period, but maybe not.
Yeah. Well,
But anyway.
they're, it's like their check probably hits at this time and, they're consistently.
I guess
Yeah.
the point of it is she could see exactly when every previous one had come through. And then of course we have a title policy as well. So we buy a lender's title policy that says, hey, you're getting this, you're going to be in first lien position, and you need to know that you're in first lien position. That follows, this title policy follows that bank note, that loan that's been created for the length of the note. So she had all of these things, and it's just like Crystal said, we can close in a week or so. And if we close, here we are on the 7th. If we close this month by the 15th, if we close this month, somebody's going to receive a payment at the beginning of the next month. And so that's what happened, is she got her first payment, 20 days later, 10 days later, and she goes, it worked. It really worked. I was like, I told you it would.
Oh, it's and it's crazy and it's sad, but it's true that when you do what you say you're going to do, and when things happen in the way that you say they're going to happen, people's minds are blown because they're not used to, especially, a lot of people don't do it out of malice, but in any investment, things go awry and things go crazy. So when things actually go as planned, people are like, wait a minute, like what happened here? So that is super cool. So you guys are like able, you're closing and then within the next month receiving that mortgage payment, boom, here comes the cash flow.
Yeah, like I said, after you take a look at the documents and we get everything signed, then we just change over the third-party servicing company from our name to your name. And then at the beginning of the month, that next payment comes to you.
I love that. Do you guys have any, and Crystal, you said it earlier and I missed it. What's your projected returns? Just nail that again for me.
Yeah, 10 to 12%.
That's what I thought you said. Okay.
We have some that are originated at 10, 11. Sometimes they get discounted a little bit to give you a 12% return, but we always say between 10 and 12. We actually had one not too long ago that was originated. It was a lot lower because it was such a smaller amount. Like I said, we'll do 20,000 on up to whatever. I think right now we have about 8 million in land notes that are available, but we had one, it was a smaller one, I think at 8 or 9%, which we normally don't do that small anymore, but someone ended up buying it. It was just for a 5-year term and it was going to be for their self-directed. All right.
Okay.
So it was perfect for them. They just kind of set it and forget it. And same thing with your IBC, which is great. We sell to IBC clients as well because you just kind of set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, and that's the nice thing about those is it doesn't matter where the funds are coming from. So because it's a note and you don't have to be accredited, that makes the process a little bit easier.
And it gives you that monthly cash flow, and you can put it right back into the policy as well. And the policy is just, earning that money.
Man, you guys are so well educated on infinite banking. You must have a really good practitioner that you work with.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love it. And okay, so you said earlier, you said that one's on a 5-year term. What's the average time span, term length? What do you guys typically think on your notes that you're buying?
I would say 15 years is our average. We have some 5, 10, 15. We even have a couple that are at 20, but we do have people ask all the time. They're like, well, I don't want to hold it for 15 years. No problem. There is a market, whether you keep it for 1 year, that note, or you keep it for 5 or 10 years. We like to keep the notes earlier on in the beginning because it is amortized.
Yep. All the interest is up front.
That's right.
Exactly. So, but we know of clients and there is a market for well-seasoned notes. Right now, we actually have a few notes that are pretty well seasoned, like at 30 months, 40 something months in, and that we're looking to sell. But for the most part, we can turn around and sell that note immediately, or it may have 6 month seasoning. And when we say seasoning, that means that borrower has paid into it 6 months already. And
Okay.
then down and sell it. But we sell our notes as soon as we close with the borrower. We have some regular investors that have worked with us for a number of years that they'll just say it fits their parameters and they know our process. So we just turn around and sell it to them before month 1 has been paid.
Nice. So you're just kind of facilitating that between whoever the buyer is and your investor, kind of bridging that gap. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So I know we were talking about this earlier, and I'm a visual person, so I like pictures. A lot of people do. Can you guys walk us through what, hey, this is a project, this is what we have going on, this is what we looked for, here's how we went through our process, and this is the return. Let's show people what you
Sure.
guys are really up to.
So let's pull this up. So can you see that on your screen?
I can. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, we're gonna hit a lot here. This you'll see this says list price 315,000, property value 382,000, and so this little red outlined area is a lot that we sold. Okay.
It kind of just real quick. Whenever you buy that
Crystal, can you lean in a little bit? It's hard. It's like fuzzy. There we go.
whenever we buy a large piece of property and we subdivide it, we are originating then comps for after we sell 1, 2, 3, 10 of those tracks, we then have developed comps for that property. Does that make sense? So now
Imagine if we buy 100 acres and we subdivide it into 10-acre lots. We've got 10 lots there. After we've sold 2 or 3 of them, we have a very solid value for the remaining 7 of them.
It's easier to sell the other 7 or 8 because you have 2 to prove, you know, it's only worth what people are willing to pay for it, right? So these people, right, it's just like when you have your house, you've got your comps to be able to compare what makes sense value-wise.
This is a 79-acre tract that we sold outside of San Antonio in Seguin, Texas. Okay, this particular lot is a little over 10 acres. Okay, so we sold this one for $382,000. Already sold to a buyer. There's a buyer who bought this piece of land. Okay, here's the origination date. We sold it on a 15-year term, 180 months. They put down 25,000. Their interest rate is 10%. So you'll see their original balance. Once again, original sale price was 382, but they put 25 down. So
the buyer put 25 down. So we're talking about the buyer, not so your buyer did it.
Yeah, the buyer did this. So I haven't gotten to the investor yet. So the buyer did that. So the original balance was 350,000. They've made look, what is that? 7 payments now. And the 7 payments took the value down, the value of the unpaid balance down to 350. The monthly payment they make is $3,800 a month. Okay, so the annual P&I payment. So you're going to make $46,000 a month. That's the cash flow. I'm sorry, $46,000 a year is the cash flow off of this note. So what are the terms? What are we looking at? This is a first lien position. They've paid those 7 months. And because the property value actually, let me go back to, because of the unpaid balance is 350,000, that's pure unpaid balance. But if we charge only 315 for this, we're selling this to an investor at 90 cents on the dollar. Okay.
Okay.
You remember your bond math. Remember from
way back when.
Here we go. So the value is 350, but we're going to sell it for 315. So even though the interest rate is 10%, the yield on this note goes to 12%. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So an investor, perhaps somebody watching this, could buy this note for $315,000, but they're getting a $350,000 note, which is going to give them, and it's going to pay out $3,800 a month or $46,000 a year, which is 12% on their money.
Love it.
Okay. Now, 14 years, 5 months left on this. If it goes to full term, you're going to receive interest of 312, almost 313,000, plus you'll have received your $350,000 in principal back as well. So you'll have both of those. And if I go to this page, here's an amortization schedule. Once again, and this is what we were alluding to earlier, you want to ideally hold this note at the beginning of the term versus the end of the term. Nothing wrong with holding it at the end of the term, but after, let's just choose a number. After 3 years, let's go with 2 years because it's close to 100,000. After 2 years, you've received $92,000 in income, but you paid, I'm sorry, the starting balance was 350.
Right.
Now your ending balance is only 326. So it's the value of the note has only gone down 25 grand, even though you've received close to 100,000. And by the way, if you bought this one, you only paid 315 for it. So your note is still worth more than you paid.
Than what you paid for it. So anytime, if you're paying your mortgage, for all these people that bought houses in the last couple of years, if you're paying your mortgage and you're looking at every payment, how little your balance is going down, and you're like, oh, this sucks, this is terrible. This is your chance to be on the other end of that, where you're the one, right? You're receiving the payment and very little of the loan balance is going down and you're receiving those interest payments. Because amortization, you know, nothing's good or bad until compared to the alternative. And amortization is great when you're the one receiving it, right? We don't want to pay amortized, but I want to receive amortized because all that interest is going in their pocket. I love it.
That's right. That's right. So this is what we're talking about, the passive monthly income. This is just coming into their, either to their policy or to their bank account on a monthly basis as it's trickling in every single month, coming right back to them, which is once again 10% on their money, or actually this particular example, 12% on their money.
Was 12, yeah, 11.98, absolutely. So is this one still, and just to kind of reiterate again for, you know, those that are listening, not everybody has 315,000 to come in and drop on a note like this. So you guys have opened up the door to say, hey, we have this loan is rocking and rolling. If you have as little as 20,000, 50,000, you know, whatever that chunk of money is, you can come in and participate in that. You're going to get the same returns, you're going to get the same benefits, and you're going to get that, you know, 12% on whatever amount of money it is that you invest. So you can kind of pull that together and work with people. I love that.
That's right. We have whole notes from 40,000 up to over 400,000.
Okay.
So with as little as 40,000, you could buy an entire one yourself. We have several in the 40,000, a few in the 70,000, but most of our notes, 90% of them are over $100,000. The sweet spot, most of them are around $250. This one's a little more. But yeah, you can buy a whole one for 40,000. You can buy them in much larger denominations, but we will sell a partial for as little as $20,000. So
how many partials is that like a big part of what you guys do? Or are you more preferred towards the whole note?
I would say in actuality, would you say 50%? At least 30% of our business is partial.
The partial. Yeah. And here's what we love with the partial, especially if someone, whether you have the money or not, someone just wants to dip their toes into it and just learn and start getting that cash flow each month and just check it out. Then that way, okay, they dip their toes into it. And then what happens is a month, 2-3 months later, then we have someone that may roll over their 401k or has a IBC policy or self-directed IRA, whatever it may be, and go, okay, now I'm ready for a whole note. I just wanted to see how that worked and feel comfortable with that.
And I think that's huge. Like when you talk about like the 401k and the IRA world, so many times, and Rick, I think you and I really clicked originally because our backgrounds in finance were so similar. And it's, there's so many great people in that space and they do good things, but it's also true that so many people go into that and they start working and they have that experience in the traditional financial world, Wall Street space, and they're like, this is not where I want to be. And we find ways to add value elsewhere. So all of that to say, coming from the retirement world, what I saw was that we were taught and trained how to teach people how to put money into accounts, right? We want to get assets under management. We want to get money in the firm, and they're going to get the best rate of return that they can. And those assets under management and rate of return are great. And that's what Wall Street focuses on. But there's a disconnect with, hey, put your money into this account and get a good rate of return. But there's no real conversation or connection to how do you generate cash flow and actually start using this money? How do you start making your money work for you? So often people get to this phase of retirement or distribution, right? A point in life where you want to maybe not work so stinking hard, and they don't know how to create cash flow, or they're, maybe the market's down or whatever. This is a excellent way to create reliable, consistent cash flow and generate income if you're getting into that phase of life where, all right, I don't want my money in the market. I don't want to deal with all these ups and downs or, worry about what the feds are doing. I just want to put my money into something that I can sit back and collect a check. So people who have IRAs, 401ks, and all these things sitting out there, if you're wanting to generate income, this might be an opportunity to say, hey, here's a cash flow system that's just going to spit it out every single month. And you still protect your principal, because that's something a lot of retirees want to do is, I want income while still protecting the principal of my dollars. And this is a beautiful blend of those.
Yeah, if I could say something I mentioned earlier, just kind of joking around, hey, remember your bond math. Let's talk about where we are in the interest rate cycle, what's going on. Because I'm a big proponent of this. In the real estate world, when prices are going up and interest rates are going up, you want to own property. You want to own real property because the values of those properties are going up. But when the interest rate peaks or is beginning to go down, what do you want to do? You want to own paper. You don't want to be owning those physical assets that are losing value. You want to be owning paper. And so I think this is an ideal time to be owning these notes that we have now created at 10, 11, 12%. And to be able to lock that into a 15-year term, you're going to get that on your money when all the notes that are created here too, or going into the future, are just going to get smaller and smaller as far as on the interest rate side. So we've only got so much time, or you might as well take advantage of the high interest rates, because once again, you're the one receiving it, not the one paying it.
Isn't that funny though? Like, when I talk to people about the infinite banking side, but when you are becoming the banker, like we literally have a 180-degree mind shift. It is the total opposite from consumption or consumer thinking, in that, like you said, bankers want high interest rates and we don't want to be at the peak. So I think that's exactly right. It's difficult to think of, oh, well, what are the feds going to do? We see interest rates going down. Yeah, like you said, I want to lock in my rate now. Some people are waiting to buy a house or I've got a friend looking at vehicles. My husband's looking at a new vehicle, but he's wanting to wait to see what interest rates do. If you're a consumer and you're looking at this and you're thinking about buying into an investment, if you're going into the investment as the banker, you need to get in now before interest rates do come down, because you can lock them in for a decade or more and continue to receive that. Now, let's talk about this too. So with that being said, let's say you buy this note, you lend, you are doing this owner financing, you're the bank, and you have your borrower that's paying your monthly payments. I would assume that there is the ability that the borrower can refinance and get into another lower debt, but it's years down the line and you get your initial money back, right? Is that kind of how it's set up with you in your program?
Yeah, let's go back to that previous example. And I can, let me pull it up really quick. I'm going to share that screen again.
Perfect.
Amortization schedule. You paid $315,000 for this note. So let's say 3 years goes by and the owner of this property decides to refinance or sells or moves, moves and sells. They want to sell the property. They do. What are you going to receive? Or when they refinance it, they go to a bank and they refinance it. The bank is going to pay 100% of the principal balance.
Yeah.
The
So they're going to pay you that
balance,
312.
they're going to pay you that 312. If they do it in year 2, they're going to pay you that 326. If they do it at the end of year 5, it's going to be the 280. But yes, they're going to pay you that 312. And you've already, I was trying to highlight 2 lines.
You've already received 92,000. Oh, you've received the 138. Okay.
138,000, and they're going to pay you back 100% of your principal, and you got 10% on your money for that term, that 3 years. You got 10%, or I'm sorry, 12% on your money on this one during that term, and then you received 100% of your principal back.
Yeah,
so
go ahead and refinance, please.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes, you're like, oh, I don't want anyone to refinance because then I got to go find another note. But yes, the banks love it when you refinance, because what do? They go lend that money, they get their money back.
They're getting the beginning years again, right? All
That's
banks
right.
want the beginning of the note. You always want the first couple of years because that's when the interest is the heaviest. So
That's
absolutely.
Right. You come back to me and say, Rick, they refinanced. I've received 138. They gave me back 312, and I say, great. Let's take that. What is that? 450, and let's get you another note for 450, and start at the top start in year 1 again.
Yeah.
Start at the top and begin receiving.
Get that huge, like that interest in year 1 was 34,565. Interest in year 2 is 33. So you're always getting the heaviest interest in the first couple of years. So
that's right.
I love it.
Right.
No, I'm glad this is really helpful too, just to kind of picture, hey, some people look at refinancing as a risk. It's not, right? Are you going to get your money back? Do you need to go find a new note? Yeah, but that's, like you said, that's the opportunity to get into a new note in the beginning years of that. So, that's awesome. That one that you guys just showed, that one's already sold. Is that already done? Do you have anything in the works? What's coming up on the horizon?
We've got several like that particular note that are currently available, but that we've already originated, that the borrower is already paying on. But we did just buy a new property that is in Arkansas right now. It's 40 acres. We do have a picture of that. We can show you that one super fast.
Yeah. Let people know
this
one.
one's
I'll tell you what, Arkansas and Alabama are very underrated. And I think people are starting to pick up on that because I keep hearing more and more about it.
So we like Texas and we like Arkansas because they are lender-friendly states. That's why we are heavy.
That's important.
In those states, and we are really big on just affordable housing as well, helping those get into homes, ranchettes for their family. Because what we're seeing is multiple generations put roots on these properties as well. And that just, I think, is something that's gone away with for many, many years, but I feel like that's starting to come back again, where people are just wanting a place to set some roots and have multiple generations on those properties.
Oh yeah. My husband's already planning his commune. Like, this is probably what we're going to have.
I love it.
This would be an ideal spot for it. Let me tell you about it.
He's like, I got the
beautiful drone footage flyover of this area. This is a gorgeous area. This is up on a hill. This is 40 acres by that magenta square. You can see that. It's got this road frontage right here along the left side of this picture. And this one, by the way, we have under contract. We technically haven't closed on this yet, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit different than this one. We're not going to sell this as raw parcels. We're going to add a little bit more value on this one. We're going to go ahead and add mobile homes on this one. So we're going to split this into 10 lots. So you got seven 3-acre lots across the front. There's water right up here on the front. There's power here at the front. And this particular 40-acre plot of land has a mobile home already back in this back corner. So we're going to leave that one there, and we're going to put septic and bring in water for all of these other ones, and we're going to bring in mobile homes. So imagine mobile home here, mobile home here, mobile home here, and then in this back corner we have 6.5 acres with a pond on it, and we're going to do the same thing back here. This one will be a nice one. We might actually sell this just as a lot with a pad site for somebody to build with sticks and bricks on it, because it's such a nice piece of property. But that's the plan on this one. And we are currently looking for investors to help us take this one down on the front end. Nice. If you have any listeners that might be interested in that. So we would raise the funds to take down this property. We have it under contract for 250. We're looking to borrow 400,000. We'll pay 12% on that, and we want to borrow that money for 2 years. And
we already have the mobile homes available. It's just the land now.
That's right. We already have the homes to put on here. So we need to go in and do the septic, the driveways, and bring in the water to each property, get them all hooked up, et cetera, et cetera.
Ready to sell. So we'll make it that it's FHA approved.
Yep.
So they can get financing as well, not just owner financing, but we probably could sell all of these and they would be available for the borrower to get a loan on.
Nice.
Structured that way. So
and you're going to be doing an owner financing where they're buying it from you?
They'll have an option. They can.
Oh, I guess if they do FHA, they can do a tradition like a regular lender.
Do USDA loans as well as FHA or owner finance. If they don't quite meet those criteria, then we can owner finance and carry it for them. That's right.
That's awesome. Okay.
So this is once again it's not exactly what we do every day, but this is a similar plot of land, right? So we would come in and we're going to use this common driveway to access these two properties here in the back. So we strategically don't have to do any major road development here. These would have driveways off of the front. And then we'll have an easement that comes up here that brings water and power for these two properties. And that's as simple as it is.
I love it. Where can people go? So how do we go from like, hey, I heard about this to I want to get some more info and start to dive in? Where can they go to learn more about this, see maybe some deal info, and get in contact with you guys?
Yeah, I think for LinkedIn, for both of us, it's Crystal Rumer as well as Rick Rumer, Rumer, and we'll get you, Erica, you'll have all that information with our emails as well.
I'll put it in the video, I'll put it in the email, we'll put it all everywhere.
What I was gonna say is what we personally love, and one of the big core values for Rick and I and as our family is relationships. And so we're really big on building relationships with our investors. And so we like to jump on a Zoom. Of course, not everyone likes that, but if you're local, we want to meet you local. So we love that. We've got a investor that's become a good friend of ours that we hit up a new barbecue place every time. So
that one y'all took me to in Fort Worth was amazing. So I trust your barbecue choices 100%, 10 out of 10.
We'll have to like figure out like maybe the different taco places or for us next time we meet, like try something new. But we love the relationship building, and since we've gotten to meet you and know you and work with you, I mean it really is the reason why we do what we do and what blesses us and drives us. And so all that to say, with the investors, we give out our email, our phone number, because we want to make sure that we're in contact and our investors know from beginning to end. And not all of them need hand holding, but we like to help if that's needed, because we want to make sure that the investor feels comfortable. And really, for most investors that invest in a note, once they invest in one, then they want to come back. And so just legacy building, right? Relationship building. It's just growing that, and it's a bigger purpose too.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that comes through just in, obviously, you and I, all of us getting to know one another. I think you guys have done such a good job building relationships, providing information, and not just, always make the joke like, oh yeah, here you go, slap your butt out the door. No, this is something like you're in it and helping give guidance and insight. Hey, even once they're an investor and even once they've bought that note, helping them really understand and look and, stay on top of what their asset and what their cash flow is doing, and look for the next one, right? So absolutely. I think that speaks to your investors, that speaks to your success. And I can attest to that too. I just love what you guys have done. Let's wrap up with some personal side. So two primary, maybe three questions. So what is something that you want to do more of, but you haven't really had time for?
Good question. Do you want me to go first? Because I've got kind of.
If you got it loaded up, you go for it.
Rick's like, I'm still thinking.
So I said core value number
I knew you were going to go there.
Relationship. Core value number 2 is time. Time is second for us, and whether that's together, it's with our children, with our family and friends, but also serving in just a capacity that's beyond just us as well. And so for the last over 10 years, we've been working with women and children that have been sex trafficked. And we have been on the very front lines of that. We adopted our daughter out of that. We could tell you story after story, crazy stuff. But I would say time, the reason why we're doing what we're doing is because to free up more time for us to do those other things outside of just us. It is what matters to us.
Yeah, it's tough. If you knew even more of our history, and we can get into it a little bit here, something we haven't had time to do. Well, you're talking to the people that just took, 8 years and drove up to Alaska and then worked for a nonprofit, for 8 years. Like, if there's one thing we value, it is time, and it is the ability to have freedom to go do what you want to go do. I think we haven't traveled as much as I want to. I think that has maybe less to do with time and more to do with a lack of intentionality or a lack of planning. And I'll probably blame a little bit on our children a little bit too, although we've taken them some fun places. I know we've been down to Colombia a number of times, and my wife tells me all the time, if we didn't have kids, we would live in Colombia.
Yeah.
So I know we want to experience some more cultures around the world. I think that's if I had more time to do over again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's our most valuable asset. So yeah, absolutely. The more we can get of that, the better.
Yep.
Here's the thing, this question is really important for me, because I think over the last few years, we've had COVID, we've had all these crazy things in the world, in the economy, in the investment side of things, just across the board. It's been a crazy few years. So over the last 5 years, what new beliefs, habits, behaviors, anything that you have adopted that has positively affected your life, just overall, business, personal, or both?
Go.
Quick draw. Here we go.
Okay. I would say, oh man.
Oh, that was so good. I just can't think of it.
Well, I was gonna say 2 things. First thing is personal, of just really grounding, becoming more grounded, being intentional with our health, our spiritual growth, and just that personal growth and becoming more grounding and literally going outside and being part of nature. And I love walking around barefoot all the time. If I could go everywhere barefoot, I would. But I just, I love that. But really just getting more grounded in where we're at. And it's such a chaotic world, but just to be able to find peace and contentment right in the journey and where you're at. So I would say that's for personal side and has been huge. And then on the business side, and maybe a little bit on the personal, is really more niching down. It's so easy to find those shiny objects and go, ooh, yeah, that sounds good. Ooh, yeah, that sounds good. And I'm so guilty of that and chasing after
I'm
that.
with you. Yeah.
But I think really niching down and has been the best for us on the business front and really helped getting our mindset right. And even more recently too, where we're just refining and honing in on what we love and what we know we do best and what we have a passion for, and just really staying steadfast on that instead of getting all outside.
Well, I think you said it best too, where what you do best, right? Like, what is it that you're really, really good at? And so when people come to you, they know, like, these people, these are it. And I kind of refer to it in the doctor world, right? Like, if you have a foot problem, don't go to a cardiologist. But if you do have whatever problem it is, you go to a specialist in that area because you know they're going to be really good at it. And if you do go to a cardiologist, they're going to be like, hey, this isn't me. I'm not, do I know, am I a doctor? Yes. Am I going to know high level what's going on? But to really solve the issue and be as effective as possible, you need to go see the specialist in that area. And I'm a firm believer in that as well. Like, when you niche down and you become that specialist, you become the absolute best version of yourself and the best possible, person that you can be for your investors, for your family, all of that. I love it.
I think she was talking about being rooted and grounded, and I think that this flows very much with the IBC community, as well as what we're doing is in this modern day when there's so much available information and we can go on the internet and we can find things, and we can or be educated on things. There's an active movement of going and taking back control of things for ourselves. The banking policies or the banking needs for yourself, and that there's a better way to do things. I think we can all, without getting too political, we can look at Social Security and go, hey, maybe that's not going to be there for me. But our parents grew up in a day and an age where everything was done kind of for them or provided for them. And it was, as long as you go to school, you're going to graduate and everything's going to be okay. And so that's kind of the direction they sent us. But I think what I've been focusing on is taking back more control of the things that I can control, whether it be utilizing IBC or creating my own income or passive income for myself, or healthcare and all of the research we can do online these days. And I guess that's just for me. When you speak of being grounded, I speak of more becoming more actively involved in our own future or in our present. Right?
Take ownership of the things in your, absolutely. Well, like you said, like your finances, your health, like everything. It's not anybody else's or any other system's job to do it for you. So absolutely.
Well, and some of my health journey, and I know yours, and we really couldn't rely on the healthcare system either. Not that it's all bad. It was just, we needed to find a different way because it wasn't working.
We didn't fit into that box, right? Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, we've just seen, since we have educated ourselves and taken control and taken back that and not relying on, oh, well, so-and-so said this, so yes, I do that. Just constantly educating and learning and growing. I feel like that's been huge for us over the last couple of years, and has been life-changing, literally, even on the health side.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I know you guys know. So even my mom and my husband are both nurses. They're both RNs in the medical world. My grandma worked in a cancer research facility for many years. So there's a lot of value in the medical system, in any system, right? There's a lot of value in the medical system. There's a lot of value in the education system. There's a lot of value in the financial system. But when you're following along that trail and you're ready to maybe scale out of the norm and you're ready to kind of graduate from just existence to really leveling up and building, either building better health, building wealth, building knowledge, then if you want what everybody else has, go do what everybody else is doing. But if you're ready to grow and scale, you've got to, Rick, like you said, go be intentional and take ownership and go find it for yourself and build upon that. That's absolutely huge. I love it. Do you guys have any books or podcasts that you just absolutely love and would love to share?
I mean, outside of your podcast?
Yeah.
I didn't know there were.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything else that you might dare listen to, skip.
Did I have, what's that one?
We're
Oh,
looking.
I know one because Rick, I've told everybody, you told me about this book, and I have told almost every single person that I have met with since the book
Entrusted about, yeah. And
oh my gosh.
It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but for those that have that, I don't know, that want. Anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your plug there. Go ahead.
No, it's yours. Yeah, I stole it from you, so please do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great book about how you can leave your legacy beyond your wealth to your children. And I think of it putting qualifiers on their access, to what you're going to leave them, i.e., most parents right now, I would just say most baby boomers wouldn't trust their middle-aged children with their whole wealth right now.
No.
They wouldn't give it to them. But when they pass away, that's what's going to happen. It's all going to go to them.
Yeah.
And if they haven't instilled some kind of education or wishes to how that, or handcuffs as to how that's going to be used, it's just going to, you don't trust them now. Why would you trust them when you're dead? It's gonna be spent up in a heartbeat. So Entrusted is all about how to wisely leave your funds or your legacy to your children, your financial legacy.
Yeah. And like you said, legacy is more than just money. It was the thing that resonated with me in this book was the mindset, the habits, and the practices that these families have in place that teach their children. It's literally generational. I mean, it is expected that the children understand this. And there's two things that stood out to me in this book. The first one is a quote, and it said, most people think that planning for generational wealth is preparing wealth for your family, but it's not. It's about preparing your family for wealth. And it was just like, oh my, because you're right. So many people are like, oh, I don't want to leave my kids wealth, or, I don't want them to be spoiled, or I don't want them. That's not what this is about. It's about creating true generational wealth. And the second analogy was, I guess they talk about building a bridge, right? When somebody builds a bridge, they don't start on one side and then build all the way across. You have this side, and they connect the two. And that is our job. Is we build our wealth as parents. We teach our children how to build their own wealth. And then they meet in the middle, and that creates the true generational. And even on the book cover, it has a bridge. And I was like, that just made so much sense that this is a partnership with your children, partnership with future generations to build wealth. So if you can't tell, I loved that book.
Glad I sent it your way.
It's yeah.
Glad you love it so much. Regarding notes, and I don't know how to say this, and I don't know if I've already said it yet already, but owning the paper, owning the notes, being the bank is the most powerful trump card in real estate. You do none of the work, you get completely passive income, and you have, once again, that trump card to take back the property if anything goes wrong. So I'm really big and passionate on the notes. If somebody's interested in notes, investing in debt
Who's the author?
This is Jimmy Napier. I believe he's passed away now, but it's really a great book talking about buying debt and owning that debt as a means of cash flow. Obviously, not your debt, but other people's debt, and using it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Using it for the cash flow purposes.
I was gonna say, in Robert Kiyosaki, we all know Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but he now talks about investing in debt.
Yes.
So, which I was like excited to hear.
Yeah, his book, Second Chance, which I'm pretty sure he made his money. He's got all these books. He's got the cash flow game. He's got all his seminars, right? I think at this point in his life, he has made all his money that he doesn't care anymore. And I'm pretty sure his book, Second Chance, he just let it rip, where he kind of goes off on everything. But he does talk about how real estate has changed. And, you know, Rick, I think you mentioned this earlier, how you may not want to own the asset, but you can own the paper. So he kind of he doesn't go about it in depth and detail on that, but it was something that was really fascinating. So yeah, absolutely. Are there any podcasts or anything that specifically talk about that? Or do you guys have one that you're doing, or any other educational material that you have?
No, we've been on a number of individuals. Dan Deppen has a great podcast on investing in notes.
Yeah. Kevin Shortle.
A friend of ours, has almost unlimited knowledge in notes. He's been doing it for years and years, and has taught many courses. Both of those guys also have courses in note investing.
Oh, okay.
Recommend both of those.
They're not note originators. They do a lot on the educating side, which is great, where we focus on originating side, and then they focus a lot on the education side and have courses, things like that. So there's a lot out there, but I would say I trust those two guys.
Yeah. And obviously, like you guys said, you're willing to sit down, have a conversation, introduce people to great barbecue, and start the process of teaching. So that's sometimes that face-to-face, you just can't beat it. So awesome. Anything else you guys would add? Any other opportunities or anything that we need to make sure and point people's attention to?
I was just going to say, lastly, for us, we just had I would say it's probably one of the biggest compliments. We had an investor where she's bought a few notes from us, and then she called recently and said that she wanted to invest her mother's money, which her mother's in her 70s and probably closer to 80s. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was huge for us to hear her entrusting us with that, with her 70-plus-year-old mother, that she's like, hey, I want to get her some notes. And you can never be too young or too old to start investing.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about, like that is honestly, it sounds like a great situation for an older person who's ready for the income, but wants to protect the principal. I mean, what a great way to just create that cash flow. But like you said too, that's a whole nother level. Doing something with your own money is one thing. Doing it with friends or even investors' money is another level. To do it with your mother's money is a whole, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what you do at that point other than name your firstborn after them. I mean, that's just true trust right there. That's amazing. That is a good compliment. Yeah, you absolutely should put that in gold. That's fantastic.
You'll trust us with your mother's money.
Yeah. That's a tagline. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on. And then, you know, for everybody that's watching, we're going to have all of Rick and Crystal's contact information available. So follow them on LinkedIn, you know, reach out to them via email, whatever you need to do. They're here to, you know, continue that process of educating, help you implement cash flow. Make sure you like this video, share this video, save this video, do whatever you can, because the more people that we can reach, the more people we can talk to, the more people we can educate about all of these different investing and cash flow scenarios, the more we can actually move our people, our circle to that, you know, financial freedom. And coming back to like what you guys said, let's buy our time back, right? Like It's not about, you know, I don't want to go buy a fancy car. I don't want to go buy a fancy house. Maybe you do. I don't care. Me personally, I want to do what I want, when I want, and time be completely at my disposal. And so that's exactly what we're working for. So Rick and Crystal, thank you so much for coming back on, teaching us about your notes and your cash flow. And we'll see you guys next month.